If you want uncut and extended versions of my videos, go to patreon.com/traplawross. Also, you can now watch my new drops on Spotify, so go search me there. Here's the video. Playboi Carti is one of the most mysterious artists in modern hip-hop. The enigmatic rapper has spent the last 10 years cultivating one of the most rabid fan bases in media history. Fans hanging on every word and picture, looking for clues and hints at what moves he might be making next. Every social media post has been poured over, with desperate stans trying to decode any number, symbol, or reference that might indicate that their favorite artist is gearing up to drop new music. But the sad reality is, when it comes to disappointing his fans, Carti is in a league of his own. Time and time again, Carti's hinted at albums or music dropping and has pulled the rug out from under his listeners. But the question is, why does this artist, seemingly with the world in his palm, constantly refuse to deliver the music his fans so desperately want? Is it laziness? Is he scared of failure? Or does Carti really low-key just hate his fans and supporters and love disappointing them? Well, the truth might just be more shocking than anyone could have ever imagined. Because despite his music being incredibly creative and focused on the parties and mosh pits rather than the streets, behind Carti's recent trademark sound of rage music is a deadly secret that he's been forced to hide for years. Despite not making drill music or gangster rap, the party music of Playboi Carti holds hidden clues about a violent gang war that he's been a part of in Atlanta, a relentless street conflict that's caused the deaths of numerous friends and enemies of Carti, a war so bad that at times Carti has been apprehensive about recording music in his own city, even being driven to hide out in a literal cave in Paris for months to avoid being caught by his ops in Atlanta. As Carti became more and more successful in music, he was able to get further away from his ops in Atlanta, but behind the scenes, the war continued. And in 2020, on his groundbreaking album Whole Lotta Red, he for the very first time would open up about the role that he had personally played and continues to play in his fearsome Atlanta blood gang, admitting to his losses in the streets, his desires to see his enemies killed, and even arranging his enemies to be stabbed in prison. This was a game-changing moment, not just because Carti had shocked the world by revealing that despite his fashionable and creative persona, he was indeed calling shots for a dangerous gang, but even more so, he rewrote the rules in hip-hop using a punk rock rage rap style song to diss his ops and make a drill song that could still be played in a mosh pit. And while the subtle coded lyrics talking about the vicious streets that he ran in Atlanta went over many people's heads, he would continue to lean for real into his gangbanging persona, dropping more songs, lyrics, and visual clues that hint towards his undercover ties to Atlanta's blood gangs. So in today's video, we're going to be going deep, breaking down Carti's whole life story from his rough upbringing in the streets of Atlanta, his meteoric rise to fame, his lyrics that reveal to the world that he's not as soft as his music would have you think, and the details of that deadly gang conflict that still threatens his life even after he became a chart-topping millionaire. This is the story of the deadly gang war behind Playboi Carti. Now, people all around the world are sitting by their phones waiting for that call telling them Playboi Carti's new album just dropped. But imagine being in a country where you can't get data and missing out on the biggest drop in rap history. Well, today's sponsor, one of my favorite eSIM companies, Saley, has got you covered. Hate when I go abroad and I can't use my SIM card. I need a Saley eSIM to get my data going hard. Forget a physical SIM, an eSIM is all you need to get back to connections and just scrolling on your feed. If you travel around the world and don't wanna miss a drop, Saley has eSIMs in every country that you want. Over 190 countries that span 8 regions to keep you locked in with that connection that you needed. It's affordable and saves a lot of cash on roaming fees. You need internet connection when you travel globally or regionally. And what I love most about Saley is that the eSIM can be installed very easily. Just go to settings and cellular and activate the new eSIM. After a few seconds, the plan is active and you're in. You just need stable internet to install the SIM with ease, so you don't get interrupted, then use it immediately. And as a special gift, Saley are giving my viewers an exclusive 15% off their data plan. Go to saley.com/traplaw, download the app, or use the discount code TRAPLAW at checkout. Thanks, Saley. Now back to the video.
Now this is some real shit I'm about to say right here.
Okay.
When I first came out, the East Coast was running the rap game. Now, Atlanta runs the rap game.
It's your boy Carti. I'm out here.
I ain't gonna be the one to be like, oh, he wasn't hood or nothing like that. But all I'm saying is, he wasn't doing bad. You know what I'm saying? Like he was fresh as hell.
It's your boy Cash Carti of Off the Records. And we live in New York, man. It was poppin'. Rap, you know, I really freestyle my shit. They would just be playing beats and shit. And I just come off top. You know what I'm saying? They was just like, yo, gotta f with us, bro. They want me to stay out of trouble and just get to this money. I mean, that's what this shit is, so, you know.
I left Atlanta when I was 18, you know what I'm saying? Moved to the Bronx, the Boogie, and I met ASAP Mob.
The ASAP member and them being new members of ASAP, you know, it's just our own little family.
What you call a mumble rap? Just yeah. So you say yeah after everything and make it wrong. Yeah.
I'm a young pretty, I don't gang bang, I don't do none of that street shit. I'm a pop star.
That's all I knew, you know what I'm saying? Everybody around me, you know, they wasn't like doing sports or something. They was just making music.
2900, know how I'm coming.
I don't like to fight. I'm a pretty boy. I don't like to fight. At this point, I shouldn't be fighting, so better bring a fight.
Right now is a very specific time in music, right? And you are like one of the artists who is sort of embodying what this new sound and this new wave of hip hop is.
Right. What's the next phase for Playboi Carti?
Man, I'm about to be a movie star. Yeah.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
I just want to be everything I can be.
Yeah, man, big bang, duct tape, mafia shit, man. Up in my trouble, video shoot today. Kicking with the pretty lady Lotta.
Duct tape a movement, man. Duct tape like family, man. Family orientation, sticking together, you know what I'm saying?
Be in the studio real late. I might clock in like at 1 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like vampire hour.
You go ahead. What you gonna shoot me?
Going at the phone for?
But I ain't gonna lie. Playboi Carti had his hand. He had his hand like, yo, what's up? What we doing? Y'all think Carti holding like that?
You won't even know when they made them DHS.
Hey, I'm built like that. I'm a pistol with your hands like.
Hey, problem child, your daddy named Big O. Big O is a preacher. Y'all heard Big O is a preacher, man. Big O is a preacher and he's a chef. He cook food, no dope. Y'all heard me? My father cooked dope. Y'all heard me? Your father cooked food. You talking about? Fashion blood, it could be fashion banging, man. A lot of you fashion blood, they want to dye their hair. They want to, you know what I'm saying? They want to dye their hair or do shit like that, man.
Hitman! On my phone, I ain't never seen so many people running in the film. Watching Ola get shot at, bro. I swear to God. Ola done went to the right. Left, I was to the left. I said, oh, hell no.
4 years ago when I came and took this seat, we were really frustrated because we were telling people there was a gang problem. We said there was a gang problem in Chicago. There was a gang problem in LA. Might have been a gang problem in DC, but there was not a gang problem in Atlanta. And we were saying, no, there is. And if you don't deal with reality, reality will deal with you.
Big bang, he's a police too, man. Make sure you pull that, man. Tell these folks big bang to rap, man. All these niggas intended on me, man.
I got 2 different lives. And when I'm not being king, damn, and all this other shit, I'm in the streets for real. So let's do it.
Playboi Carti was born Jordan Terrell Carter on September the 13th, 1995 in the metro Atlanta region of Georgia, with Carti telling Fader that his father was originally from the mean streets of Chicago.
My dad from Chicago, you know what I'm saying? He from the hood, so.
Despite having family ties to the capital city for American gang violence that birthed drill music, Carti would introduce himself on the come-up as a South Atlanta native.
Same bro. From South Atlanta, Riverdale, man. Really is not too much you can explain. It's more like a place you just gotta get out of. I lived 15 years in Riverdale, did the rest in Fair and flatbed, yo. I had to get out.
Raised by his hardworking single mother in South Metro Atlanta's suburbs of Riverdale and Fairburn. It seems like he grew up in a fairly supportive household that fostered independence, but like many kids, it seemed that he ended up abusing the trust that his mother had offered him, revealing to Complex that when he was younger, no one could tell him anything and that he was a wild kid, occasionally getting into so much trouble that it would literally bring his mother to tears. Carti attended Bear Creek Middle School in Fairburn, and then the Creekside High, located next to Bear Creek, before later enrolling in North Springs Charter High School, a magnet school drawing students all across Fulton County. He was heavily involved in sports when he was younger. Speaking with Fader, he revealed that basketball initially consumed his ambitions.
To be a hoop star, I had hoop dreams. I was young AI and then go to practice. That was the time when I was like really like ducking, like scoring. Like it was really hoop life, no rap. Like I was really on the court balling, like really balling, been balling. I was just doing other just smoke before I go to practice, get on the court, drop like 30 on. It's like crazy, like had the city going wild.
Carti credited basketball for keeping him out of trouble as a kid, and even back in 2010, he would tweet with excitement about potentially making the varsity basketball team. And according to his Max Preps profile, he would indeed make the varsity team 2 years later, only for his hoop dreams to get shattered in his very first game in a brutal loss against Sequoia. The Reddit lore from a user who claimed to have attended that game explained that Carti had started the game hot, knocking down a 3 and then a layup on the fast break. But after the layup, he would take a horrific land on his ankle, this all happening within the first 90 seconds of the game. After arguing with his coach, Carti would rage quit basketball and redirect his energy into rapping. Carti had been making music as early as 2009 at age 14, freestyling in his school's studio with his friends. He kept his tracks secret until his classmates stumbled upon them, giving him the validation boost he needed to take music seriously. By the next year in 2010, the 15-year-old Carti was going by the name JC, announcing his upcoming aviation class mixtape via Twitter in September. A mixtape that Carti wouldn't drop, only releasing a couple of singles months later, these being Max Appeal and Undead Memory. By April 2011, he would rebrand as Sir Cartier, blending his surname Carter with the luxury brand Cartier, also tweeting about his main interests as a 15-year-old being basketball, skating, music, going out, and of course lean and Tylenol. I guess some things never change. His Tumblr was a tribute to his teenage interests, particularly drugs, basketball, and skate culture, as well as posting many of his favorite artists at the time, like Currency, Mac Miller, and Wiz Khalifa. Carti later told XXL that Currency actually used to be his favorite rapper, even paying homage to him by using a $ in his rap name at the time, Cash Cartier, and naming the Louisiana rapper alongside Gucci Mane and Wiz Khalifa as his favorite rappers on Twitter in 2012. Carti credited his older brother Reggie for putting him onto Gucci Mane and other Atlanta artists at the time, and he also posts about other artists that inspired him like Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lil B, the Raider Clan including their main member Space Ghost Perp, Krayshawn, Tyler the Creator and his Odd Future Collective, and MF Doom, showing that Carti was clearly a big fan of the underground rap scene in the early 2010s. He would also name the rap legends Jay-Z, Tupac, Biggie and Nas as his other rappers that he grew up listening to XXL. Carti had a diverse range of influences, from the creative oddballs of rap, the commercial kings of lyricism, and the street and trap gods who told tales of the hood. Carti also had an early interest in fashion, tweeting during a summer holiday of 2011 that he had a new style and he couldn't wait to go to school so that people can hate on him. He also showcased his fashion interests on Tumblr, showing off fitted caps, Supreme, Vans, and Jordans. YouTuber and former classmate Aristotle would speak on Carti's swag in high school.
Aristotle, how was the GOAT Carti back in high school? Back in school? Swag? I ain't no hair, I'll be honest. To me, he was probably the best dresser. Like consistently from 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
In April of 2011, Carti took to social media to announce his next mixtape alongside some cover art. Although the mixtape titled Killing Me Softly also never got released, it morphed into a future project instead. A few months later in July, a babyface Carti dropped his debut music video, Cry. Recorded in the summer after freshman year by the 15-year-old Sir Cartier, Currency's influence was evident in the sonics of the song, with Carti rapping in his natural baby voice. A young Uno the activist also made an appearance in the video. Carti and Uno would go on to come up in the scene together. At the time, they were like brothers until an act of betrayal would ultimately shatter their bond. Carti's first video went on to gain over 700 views in its first month. Small successes for a new rapper, and he wasn't ready to slow down. He followed this with the release of Room for the Ladies just days later, and a full mixtape by the end of 2011 called THC, The High Chronicle. Next, Carti dropped Steez, a track blending Odd Future's rebellious energy with Currency's laid-back flow in a lo-fi video that was showcasing growth from his prior tracks and videos. Originally teased as a single from a project titled Cream, Carti was teasing fake albums from the very start, and predictably notably, Cream was also ultimately scrapped, and Carti pivoted to his sophomore mixtape, Young Misfit. Young Misfit featured a dark, experimental sound with a horror aesthetic, and Carti later admitted that his music at the time was made purely for his friends and not for fame. While attending North Springs Charter High School in 2013, Carti began frequenting parties hosted by Atlanta rapper Key, aka Fat Man Key. Key became Carti's mentor, describing Carti as quiet but observant to GQ. The parties had Carti rubbing elbows with other Atlanta artists, but most importantly, he met the producer Ethereal and other members from the Atlanta-based rap group and future music label Awful Records. In March 2013, Carti dropped the Young Lean-esque track Out Here. This was meant to be part of another scrapped project called Sensation, a 9-track project that was later recreated through leaks. Interestingly though, in a 2014 interview, Carti explained why he hadn't released a full project yet, hinting towards the gang war in his city and saying that he's in the streets and rap comes secondary to that.
So you still haven't released a full project or a collection of songs. Do you plan on doing that anytime soon?
I mean, like, really, don't understand what the fuck we got going on. We're really out here. Rap shit is sick. Can't really get too deep with that shit because I can't know all that shit. This rap shit is sick. I'm trying to tell you. She's sick with Carti.
It would actually be 5 years before Carti would finally open up about his ties to the Blood Gang in Atlanta, but at this time in his career, he was still keeping tight-lipped about his gang ties and wanted to focus the conversation to his fashion sense. In the same interview, Carti was asked about his fashion sense, making him be seen as weird, suggesting that Atlanta fashion is more focused on future trends rather than what's popping right now.
You're always viewed as a weird kid in the South Side. I know compared to your Atlanta style, it's always been a little more in tune with the future versus what everyone is on today. You were talking about Bape and shit on your first tracks, and now all the cool kids in Atlanta I talked about are decking Bape.
Oh yeah, I mean, shit, we been there, bro. Like, I mean, that's what we came up on, you feel me? Like, a lot of that, like, new shit, was just jocking the old shit.
From here, Carti grew close with Father, the head of the Awful Records crew, and he began prioritizing studio sessions over school. At the start of 2014, he dropped a Young Xan, a Xanax-themed love song that sampled the PS2 startup sound, a niche viral moment for fans of noughties gaming nostalgia. And he would follow that up with a series of songs, including Heavy, Holyfield, Talk, Lost, and I Got Depressed. After graduating North Springs High School in mid-2014, Carti dove fully into performing, popping up with early shows in venues like Pier 1 Bar and Grill in Atlanta, as well as house parties that were apparently so wild that they would make the floors buckle. This was long before Carti withdrew from the limelight and began building his mysterious and moody persona. In a rare Awful Records vlog, a zanned-up Carti jokes around about the need for hella hoes and drugs at their performances.
I was smoking. He mad because the time bombs, style is Hey, just interrupt his lane and This kid is he bad as yeah, he wanted to beat my ass. He couldn't do
Hella.
We gotta have no, we gotta have dope and a bunch of all the drugs. I'm talking about yo, for real, it's gonna happen.
A far cry from his later vampiric mystique, commenters on the video genuinely said, "I ain't ever heard Carti laugh like that." Others asked why and when the laughter had to end. But from here, Carti seemed to be enjoying his new life as a budding rap rookie, and he continued to drop his early music with the help of Awful Records. Tracks like By Myself or No Help, and Smash, which blended punk aggression with trap elements, a teaser of his signature punk rock inspired rage music that would later become his calling card. And going into 2015, he had another track called Mercedes. Carti would also go on tour with Awful Records, who were apparently helping him find his niche and build up his initial audience of Zan-gobbling street fashionistas. He was traveling all over North America with Awful Records, who would vlog his every move and document his growth as an artist and performer, as well as some hilarious behind the scenes moments.
Hey, they know what's up. They know what's up. Catch Carti in the hall. Better make some noise so I can better man. What's up?
He ain't gonna hit him. He ain't gonna swing.
There's another there. Who's this other?
Yo, I'm putting $10 on the guy to go.
Is that Carti?
What the hell?
Get the f out of here, bruh.
Carti is a dumb.
Get out of here. Carti took himself.
Over there.
He would appear in a Toronto tour vlog at the end of 2015, explaining that he became the hottest rapper in Atlanta while still working at H&M and still being in school, and that he was tired of being recognized at his job.
I was bagging groceries.
Bro, I tried to get a job
I went from bagging groceries to working at this place called H&M. But look, in Atlanta, that first popped off, I was the hottest at that because I was still in school, bro. Look, I'm still in school working at H&M. But anyway, I'm like this.
I picked up some Xanax before I came.
I'm like, what the f? Like, don't want to work here no more. Coming to the job, princess, look, like this. Like, yo, you Carti? Yeah, bro, that song you got fire. How long you been working here? That don't sound right, bro. I'm like, man, I'm about to quit.
It seemed that seeing more of the continent opened his eyes to how limiting the Atlanta scene was, convincing him it was time to spread his wings and go further. So he moved to Brooklyn in New York, where he had family ties. His mentor Key told GQ that Carti had outgrown Atlanta, and it was necessary for Carti to get out of his hometown to broaden his horizons and find himself. Once he got to New York, he locked in with fashionistas Ian Connor and A$AP Bari before being introduced to A$AP Rocky himself at a South by Southwest house party. Carti would even be spotted in a Maxo Cream music video shot at the party, visible in the back trying to talk to Rocky. Apparently Rocky had massively inspired Carti, and the lifestyle that he was experiencing at the New York house parties made him realize that this was the life he truly wanted. Carti had crossed paths with Ian Connor in Atlanta all the way back in 2011. A youth culture and fashion icon in the rise, Ian Connor's resume included styling A$AP Rocky as his creative director and shaping looks for the likes of Wiz Khalifa and Kylie Jenner. And Connor began introducing Carti's music to his own fan base and leveraging his own connections to book Carti shows, such as one of Carti's first LA shows that even included an appearance from Post Malone. In April, Carti released the Mexico Dro-produced track Broke Boy. The song exploded, and its video featured a meme-worthy sloppy toppy scene. The track would hit over 1 million views in a year, and it was Carti's first breakout hit that solidified his place in the Atlanta underground rap scene. Ironically, released during a time when he was broke and supported by fellow Awful Records members, through 2015, Carti was getting opportunities to rap along future greats of the game, dropping Fetty with South Texas rapper Maxo Cream and New Jersey's Dash, and he would rub shoulders with the likes of Lil Uzi Vert at a Post Malone show, a meeting that would birth future hit records, and releasing his first collaboration with Atlanta legends 21 Savage and the then incarcerated Gucci Mane called Peepin'. But despite all the support Awful Records gave him during this broke era, Carti wouldn't appear to have much loyalty to his crew, as Carti eventually joined A$AP Rocky's Org label, announcing it on stage at a live performance.
Shout out to my whole gang. A$AP in this I just signed the A$AP Rocky, man. Make some noise, man. We laying this. Yeah. Shout out to my bro Ian Connor. The whole A$AP rest in peace films. All gang. Space goes per.
Awful Records' father later explained that he had initially planned to sign Carti officially, but Ian Connor found out and intercepted, getting wind of the impending deal and quickly flying Carti to New York to ink a deal with A$AP instead. In a 2016 interview with a Japanese reporter, Carti claimed that he was never officially part of Awful Records, only A$AP.
You got like the sign the father first, right? Father and then...
I was never Awful Records. I was never Awful Records. Shout out.
Never been Awful Records?
I was never Awful Records. It's A$AP Mob. Yeah, that is what it is.
Okay,
cash,
tell me, okay, I'm gonna tell me the truth. Okay, tell me the truth. Like,
cash.
You never signed.
I was never signed to Awful, man. I've always been me by myself, and I fought with Awful on me, you know what I'm saying? But I was never signed to no. I always wanted to be a boss. I made myself a boss. So father know that, so it's lit. A$AP Mob, all gang, you dead.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know.
Cash. But whether or not he did right by the original crew that helped him get on is up for debate. But the fact is, Carti was making the bigger move for his career and aligning himself with the hottest people in rap and fashion. A day after signing the deal, Ian Connor teased a Carti and Frank Ocean collab. And from here, Carti also started booking his first international shows, later being seen at Paris Fashion Week for the first time. In November 2015, he featured on Rich the Kid's song Plug alongside Kodak Black, which racked up 4 million views in 4 months, and finishing off the year with his first collaboration with Lil Yachty, Run It. This was a time when Carti was still priding himself on being relatable, explaining during a December vlog filmed in Toronto that he's a normal dude, suggesting that people look at him and say that Carti reminds him of themselves.
I'm not one of these lanes, like you're not no normal lane. I'm a normal. I'm in. Look, I'm a normal, but I'm that you see on YouTube. You be like, damn, that Carti remind me just like of myself. That's why you. I'm like, bro, we came from there. We're supposed to be here, bro.
It's interesting as at this point, a more humble Carti was taking over the rap game and enjoying the limelight, years before he would switch up and move into his more mysterious era. This would ultimately be a gradual process of evolution, but already in 2016, people began noticing the change in Carti. During a Triple S Entertainment interview, Ian would explain that Carti had to cut some people off in Atlanta to succeed, and Carti revealed that people are saying that he has changed.
Carti, for him to take care of his young that's come up under him, he got to do it by himself. He got to cut them off like his in Atlanta. Like, Carti, you moving funny, you acting like this.
That changed.
He got to do it. He had to come here to make sure that he could go out to Atlanta and build a fucking house so they can live it. You feel me?
In response to people saying that he changed up, Carti fired back, saying that those people just don't have any vision.
Like, damn, man, like, you didn't even tell me rap like that. You know what else, you know what I'm saying? It's not even that, it's just be like, you'll be with them, you think you be on some shit. But you run into a like this, and he be like, yo, what the fuck is you on, bro? And then you get that vision, and you be like, damn, what the fuck was I doing?
This was probably a reference to Carti separating himself from his Atlanta peers musically, as well as moving further away from the gangs and violence that had been going on around him whilst he was growing up. But Carti was truly taking off in a big way, over 2016, collaborating and touring with Lil Uzi Vert, and even without releasing a major project under ASAP's label, by September, he caught the attention of the industry and managed to sign a major record deal with Interscope Records. With the support of a major label, Carti would cook up his first full-length release, and it ended up being a legendary project. On April the 14th, 2017, Playboi Carti's self-titled mixtape finally dropped, and despite sharing a release date with Kendrick Lamar's Damn, Carti carved out his own lane, debuting at number 12 on the albums charts and moving around 28,000 units in its first week. The standout song was Magnolia, an incredibly hypnotic hit that you just had to reload, something I did many times, with the track being personally my third most played song of 2017. And Carti's first official single was a chart success too, hitting number 29 on Billboard and racking up 15 million views on YouTube in a month, today sitting over 210 million views. Another hit from the tape was Woke Up Like This featuring Lil Uzi Vert that charted at 76. The project was critically acclaimed and fans and reviewers praised it for its futuristic simplicity with addictive beats. Carti's debut mixtape was hailed as one of the best albums of 2017. The Home Run mixtape landed him on XXL's freshman class cover of 2017, where Carti interestingly opened his freestyle section by rapping about his Blood Gang affiliation. Fresh off being a XXL freshman, Carti even performed Magnolia on the Jimmy Kimmel Show live in Los Angeles, with an energetic performance that even had the DJ rapping along with Carti. At the height of his budding new fame in September, he would take to Twitter to announce a mixtape with Lil Uzi Vert, later revealing the title to be 1629, a mixtape named after their old hoods. Fans hyped it up, only for the album to vanish into the vampire vault of teased yet unreleased Carti projects. For Carti, revealing albums and perhaps not releasing them was its own marketing strategy. But by the end of 2017, Carti would announce that he was truly locked into album mode, and the stage was set for 2018 to be his true metamorphosis. In May 2018, Carti released Love Hurts through SoundCloud, the lead single to his upcoming debut album Die Lit, which dropped just over a week later on May the 11th, with an album cover that paid homage to the British punk band Charged GBH. Carti was truly evolving the sound of Atlanta trap, sonically merging Atlanta rap culture with punk rock and futuristic synthesized production and auto-tuned vocals. He was pushing the boundaries and making something incredibly unique, and fans would love it. It debuted at number 3 on Billboard with 61,000 units sold in its first week, and Die Lit also charted in 8 other countries. Standout tracks included Shooter featuring Lil Uzi Vert that peaked at number 46, with the thugged out lyrics about the gang activity in Carti's hood once again going over many people's heads. Die Lit would even make leading YouTube music critic Anthony Fantano shift his opinion on Carti from mind-numbing to mind-altering.
Really struggling to hear anything special about what this guy has to offer, and it's just so purely mindless that it's mind-numbing just to listen to it. Well, I think there's a lot of creativity here. It's a pretty one-of-a-kind project, at least right now, until maybe dozens of other artists copy exactly what Die Lit is doing. But there is an especially intoxicating, catchy, and almost mind-altering quality to the simplicity of some of these tracks that I just can't get enough of.
Die Lit received rave reviews, but most importantly, fans gushed over the music, claiming that it was trap music done to perfection with the power to get paralyzed grandmothers out of their wheelchairs. Others called it the greatest trap album of the decade, suggesting that the album was so good it made them want to give birth. With Die Lit, Carti had truly solidified himself as one of the most hyped up rappers of the late 2010s, who had played a major role in shaping up the genre with his unique rapping style and beat choices. But while Carti had made some references to his connections to the gritty, gang-fueled underworld of Atlanta throughout his career, but not much known was about his actual connections to the streets at this point. So next, let's take a closer look at how Carti transformed from a trend-setting cloud rapper who was more interested in women, drugs, and fashion than gangbanging to somebody who in 2022 was listed in a recent law enforcement report as the main face of one of Atlanta's most notorious gangs. In the modern rap culture, some cities and their rap scenes are almost synonymous with their gang culture. The most famous example, of course, being Chicago, the birthplace of drill music that single-handedly brought gangs back to the forefront of the broader rap scene since the 90s gangster rap boom. Within the Chicago rap scene, the specific gang affiliations and rivalries of the artists are as big a part of the scene as the music itself. Atlanta, on the other hand, is almost the polar opposite of Chicago in this sense, or at least it used to be. Atlanta has become known as the Black Hollywood, the capital of modern rap culture, and the birthplace of the most prevalent subgenre of rap for about 2 decades now. I'm of course talking about trap music. But while the drug dealer-focused trap music would also bring some notoriety to the gangs of Atlanta, this would begin in a much more generic sense. Because while it wasn't exactly a secret that the early pioneers of trap like Gucci Mane, Waka Flocka Flame, T.I. and Young Jeezy might have had street affiliations, their exact gang ties and rivalries were never really a topic of much discussion in the lyrics or amongst fans. Moreover, Atlanta's street gang history is relatively short and simple compared to many of the other major rap cities of America like New York and Los Angeles. While these cities were already struggling with out-of-control gang wars and record-breaking murder rates brought by the 80s and 90s crack epidemic, Atlanta was only just beginning to experience rising tensions, with the newspapers at the time reporting how Atlanta was in the very early stages of gang evolution, with the few gangs existing still lacking any identifying symbols, colors, and other markers that the gangs in LA, NY, and Chicago were rocking. Nor did the Atlanta gangs have much organizational structure, but they were still getting their hands on serious weapons and sparking fear into the community. But still, in 1988, law enforcement estimated there only to be about 5 gangs in Atlanta, which to be fair, likely also says something about the tendency of police at the time to downplay the risk of gangs in the city, which had so far avoided much of the mayhem that was going on in many other major cities across the US. Some reporters would accuse Atlanta officials of pretending that gangs weren't a problem in the city and sweeping things under the rug, but later that year, the local papers would report how even the feds were now beginning to look into the gangs operating in Atlanta, with one gang name in particular being repeated often, the Miami Boys, a Miami-originating drug-dealing crew who were attempting to expand beyond the borders of Florida. Coming into the 90s, the feds would finally admit that the gangs were in Atlanta for good, and while they were still mostly small in scale, they were evolving fast. The newspapers began to publish more in-depth looks at these gangs, showing how they had adopted the habits and even identities and symbols of major gangs from LA and Chicago, using graffiti to mark their territory and showcasing their allegiance with LA gangs like Crips, Bloods, and Pyrus, and Chicago gangs like Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords. However, the authorities considered these gangs to largely be wannabes who weren't actually connected with the real national blood gangs. This might have been true in the late 2000s, or it might have simply been wishful thinking, but by the mid-2010s, the newspapers would report how the national gangs had begun infiltrating Metro Atlanta at the start of the decade, and this infiltration has now arguably taken over the entire city. So when it comes to modern Atlanta, there's only one gang that arguably controls the streets of Atlanta more than any other. That's the Bloods. However, the name the Bloods at this point is simply an umbrella term that refers to numerous gang sets that may or may not get along with each other. And while the Bloods originate from Los Angeles, in Atlanta, there are only a few blood sets that rep these original West Coast ties, with the Inglewood family, better known in Atlanta as the IF gang, perhaps being one of the most prominent examples. But to the contrary, the blood sets in Atlanta primarily have their roots in the East Coast, more specifically New York, where many blood gangs began forming during the 90s in the infamous Rikers Island prison, where black inmates were struggling to survive against the Hispanic inmates who at the time were much more unified and belonged to much larger and well-organized gangs. This eventually led to the formation of the so-called United Blood Nation, or UBN, which according to the authorities originally included 5 sets: the 1-8 Trey Gangsters, Money Murder, Valentine Gangster Bloods, G-Shine, and the 9 Trey Gangsters. These sets quickly began moving down the East Coast, primarily to push dope, eventually creating local branches of their sets in states like Virginia and North and South Carolina, eventually also Georgia, where most of the original 5 UBN sets now operate, including 1-8 Trey Gangsters, G-Shine, and the 9 Trey Gangsters, but especially Money Murder, which may currently be the single most influential gang in the metro Atlanta area. As the story goes, Money Murder, or SMM, was founded by a New York gangster named Peter Rolak, aka Pistol Pete, who hailed from the Soundview projects in the Bronx. However, like the overall Bloods moniker, Money Murder 2 is just an umbrella term for numerous smaller sets, or lines as they're called within SMM, with the authorities claiming that the dominant line in Georgia is currently known as 45 Worldwide, or simply 45WW, a group which further has several smaller lineups or cliques, such as KMB, Venom Line, Hot Wheel, X Line, and Frontline. These smaller factions largely act independently, but share certain common characteristics, like typically repping one of 2 colors, red or green, while sometimes referring to themselves with common nicknames. Money Murder, like Murder Gang, Blazers, or BBO for Blazing Billy Only, Two Gun Gang, or Trendy. This last name perhaps explaining the extremes that some of the biggest rappers affiliated with Money Murder have taken unusual fashion choices, making it almost seem like the zestier the savage, the higher they'll climb on the gang's ladder. But the reality is, no matter how unusual you think Carti's clothes are, in the streets, he's respected, and the group that he rolls with are nothing to play with. Playboi Carti is allegedly affiliated with some of the small cliques or lineups under the Money Murder umbrella, most notably a set known as the Homixide Gang, as well as their very close ally called 800. Homixide Gang's origins are interestingly based on a record label that was also functioning as an alleged gang called DTE, or Duct Tape Entertainment. Founded around 2005 by the CEO of the label called Big Bank Black, or simply Big Bank, real name Rashad Halsey Sr., together with the rapper Ali Boy. This was following the arrest of Ali Boy and Big Bank for pistol and drug charges, which saw Ali Boy going to jail and Big Bank getting probation. Founded while Ali Boy was still in prison, they would start pushing Duct Tape following his release in October 2005.
But I had just got out of prison, and we were pushing the Duct Tape. And I say I got out of prison in 2000. At the end of 2005, October.
Ali Boy would explain to a humble soul on YouTube that the name Duct Tape was used interchangeably between their hood and the label.
Like, that was the whole thing with Duct Tape, period, all together. Like, we were looking at it as a label, but we still was just looking at it like, boy, this our hood, this our, you know what I mean? So when you say Duct Tape, we were down there saying our hood, you know what I'm saying?
DTE hailed from East Atlanta, aka Zone 6, more specifically a neighborhood called Edgewood, one of the many neighborhoods around downtown Atlanta that's experienced recent gentrification. Besides Ali Boy, perhaps the most notable artist on the label was the late rapper Trouble, and the label has been connected with contemporary rappers like Future and 21 Savage. These associations likely at least partly being due to their shared affiliation with the Money Murder, with both Future's Free Bands Gang, aka FBG, and 21's Slaughter Gang having confirmed ties, and having many members that rep this set of the Bloods. Sometime during the mid-2010s, some of the younger kids connected to DTE began repping the Homixide Gang. Originally also going by EH, or Extortion Homicide, during the mid-2010s, some of the earliest Homicide-affiliated rappers, like the rapper formerly known as Homixide Doody, later known as Problem Child 5, would perform under the Duct Tape Entertainment, being apparently hand-picked by Big Bank himself. Also, the 800 set, also known as 800 BBS, or 800 block back street, which literally hails from around the 800 block of Smith Street in the Pittsburgh neighborhood. This was an area where many of the Homixide members grew up, and the neighborhood has been affiliated with Duct Tape Entertainment for a long time, with a house there even formally showcasing art repping both 800 and DTE. And Big Bank would mention how he was pushing artists from this set in his interviews.
I got a whole crew. I'm still, bringing the next generation of this Duct Tape thing. I don't even want to call their names out, but it's a whole new crew coming. A whole 800 back street. We coming hard, like.
DTE was also close with other older sets from the Edgewood area, such as a set called the Runts, who were even included on the FBI's National Gang Threat Assessment in 2011. The name Runts is of course familiar to many fans of modern Atlanta rap due to the rapper Ola Runt, who's in fact part of the younger generation of the Runts. He actually used to rep DTE as well all the way back in 2010. Now, the younger generation of the Runts goes by the name Henxhmen, with their other notable rappers being guys like Benji Bluebills, Woo the Savage, and 24 Left Eye, who has become a target of some pretty controversial rumors in recent times. Henxhmen are notorious in Atlanta for being perhaps the most hated gang in the city, with little to no allies and many enemies. But regardless, Henxhmen and Homixide Gang were seemingly close in the beginning, although they've had certain organizational differences. For example, Homixide Gang appears to be under the dominant Money Murder line in Georgia, the 45 Worldwide, whereas the Henchmen are under a different line called G20 or B20. There are also other blood gang alliances in Atlanta, with Homixide Gang being affiliated with the so-called 4L Alliance, which includes sets like Slaughter Gang, 1504 aka PDE, and Young Brew 4L, while the Henchmen rep another moniker called 5L. When the national blood gangs first began operating in the Atlanta region, there were relatively high levels of unity between these different factions. But while the gang membership has risen in the state of Georgia heavily, particularly during the past years, the gangs have also become increasingly splintered, with a confusing mix of small cliques and increasingly complex alliances and rivalries characterizing the current landscape. For reasons that we'll get into more later, a breakdown would also take place between the Homixide Gang and the Henchmen during the late 2010s. According to the Georgia law enforcement, the breakdown has also taken place amongst the higher up factions of Money Murder that these two sets are a part of, with the dominant 45 Worldwide line that Homixide Gang is a part of allegedly stating that the G20 line of the Henchmen is not recognized in the state. Likely related to the breakdown between these two sets, Homixide Gang would seemingly seemingly stopped being active in the Edgewood area, instead moving down completely to the hood of the 800 set in the Pittsburgh neighborhood in Zone 3. Ever since Atlanta got rid of all of their large public housing projects, the gangs in Atlanta have also become less tied to one specific place, and instead, members of a single gang set can have presence in many different locations all over the metro Atlanta area, with law enforcement claiming that Homixide gang actually has presence from East Atlanta and DeKalb County all the way to Clayton County. The same document reveals that the police have been investigating the Homixide gang since the beginning of 2022, and it would also label Ola Runt as the most prominent member of the Henxhmen, while perhaps somewhat surprisingly labeling Playboi Carti as one of the most prominent members of the Homixide gang too. This might come as a surprise to some fans who only knew Carti for his baby voice raps and questionable fits, but in the eyes of law enforcement, Carti is a shot-calling and high-ranking blood. So, to truly understand how Carti managed to get to the very top of both Atlanta gang politics and the music scene, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. Not that much is known about Carti's early life gang connections, but the consensus amongst the fans appears to be that Carti was not heavily gang affiliated whilst he was growing up, and his old high school mate from the Creekside High that Carti attended for a period of time would later tell how Carti appeared to be from a fairly well-off family.
He always had the latest shoes, and I know his parents bought them, but like whoever his mom was, I'm pretty sure she up. She well taken care of. Like bro had I ain't gonna be the one to be like, oh, he wasn't hood or nothing like that. But all I'm saying is he wasn't doing bad, you know what I'm saying? Like he was fresh as hell. Whoever his mom was, or dad, they had some paper.
In his earliest songs, like the song 36 Villains from his 2012 mixtape Young Misfit, Carti would simply rep the south side of Atlanta without any references to a specific gang. But already back then, he was clearly well connected all over the city, making songs with other underground rappers from areas like East Atlanta, aka Zone 6. According to Carti himself, he would also get into quite a lot of trouble in Zone 6 in the early 2010s by hitting licks with his old friends like the rappers Man Savage and Fat Man Key.
My mom and dad, you know what I'm saying, they ain't go to college, but they ain't have me broke, you know what I'm saying? They weren't broke, you know what I mean? I ain't these, I jumped out the port, my mom and dad's in the subs. I was like, man, I don't want to be out here. I was in Zone 6, I'm on the 3, I'm in the 6 with Fat Man Key, Man Savage. He in licks, bro, like I ain't got fat, like I ain't got. Told me, he told me, that's my OG.
There are also pictures from that time period posted by Man Savage that showed Carti toting guns, with Carti later reminiscing about these times in the 2020 song Punk Monk, rapping how he was riding around with Man and Key while toting a gun. Soon, Carti would also begin to make references in his music that appeared to be gang related. Carti would make his affiliations known in lyrics, repping the number 2900 in the song Heavy, a number that he would then begin to repeat on numerous tracks, including an unreleased but eventually leaked song literally titled 2900, where Carti raps how 2900 is his block and how he's got 20 ops and shoots up their block 29 times. In another leaked song known as Essential or Canary Diamonds, Carti even shouts out his 2900 block together with several other gang sets, including of course his good friend Uzi's 1600 block from the Francisville section in North Philly, with Carti and Uzi referencing their respective blocks in their rumored mixtape that never dropped titled 1629, but also the rapper Young Nudy's PDE set from Paradise East Apartments located in East Atlanta, and 21 Savage's Slaughter Gang, also known as 2100 Slaughter Gang, from the Glenwood Avenue and Glenwood Road area in East Atlanta, both of these sets later becoming part of the 4L alliance that Homixide Gang affiliates with. The connection between Carti and Slaughter Gang may be partly explained by Carti's alleged family connection to an older set called Black Mob from East Atlanta, who were in fact a precursor to the Slaughter Gang. However, despite Carti often repping the 2900 block in his music, there is a lot of mystery surrounding what the moniker actually means and where this supposed block is located. Some see 2900 as referring to the Highway 29, aka the Roosevelt Highway, which goes through Carti's old stomping grounds in the city of Fairburn, where his early schools like the Bear Creek Middle School and the Creekside High School are located, and where he used to live in a subdivision called the Oakley Township, according to his childhood friend.
Because I remember he lived in this subdivision called Oakley Township in Fairburn, and they had nice houses. I don't know which house he lived in, but I just remember he lived there.
The 2900 block then perhaps refers to the entire city of Fairburn.
I'm 2900 Southside.
Well, okay, so explain 2900, what that exactly means and where it came from.
Boom, so, you know what I'm saying, from the south side, you know what I'm saying, like in Atlanta, south side, it's like College Park, you got Clayco, you know what I'm saying, and then you got the small ones in between, Union City, Fairburn, you know what I'm saying, Flat Show, you know what I'm saying. And we just always like the Union City, like I grew up around the College Park, Union City, Fairburn area, you know what I'm saying? And now we would call it 2900 because like it was like different blocks, 25, 20, you know what I'm saying?
But somewhat confusingly, besides seemingly repping Fairburn with 2900, Carti would also rep Zone 3 at the same time, despite Fairburn being far closer to Zone 4, as well as repping the city of Riverdale in Clayton County to the east of Fairburn, where he, according to himself, lived for a long period of time growing up.
From Atlanta, Georgia. And yo, before this rap, man, I was trying to stay out of trouble, ducking 12, you know? Same bro. From South Atlanta, Riverdale, man. Really is not too much you can explain. It's more like a place you just gotta get out of.
Carti has seemingly also been affiliated with at least one set from Riverdale, known as RSG, or Rich Slime Gang, who rep the East Coast Blood set 5'9 Brims, and are also known in the Atlanta rap scene due to rappers like Slimacito. The main takeaway here perhaps being that Carti has always been moving around and making gang connections all over Metro Atlanta. However, when it comes to the 2900 in particular, which Carti repped the most throughout his career, there are also old social media posts that seem to imply 2100 being a specific set from Fairburn, who were apparently beefing with another local set called Goon Squad back in the day, this beef being also connected to Carti's old high school, the Creekside High. And there's even some old posts seemingly implying that 2800 was in fact a blood set, a rumor that's been repeated by fans on Reddit. The following year, as Ian Connor would take over managing Carti, the duo would make their way to Los Angeles, where they would apparently link up with the Campanella Park Pyrus from Compton, this eventually even starting a rumor that they had actually blessed Carti and Ian into the Bloods.
Check it out.
With it.
Yeah.
And it was around this time that Carti actually begun repping the Bloods in his music on a much more regular basis. He would even start making references to specific Atlanta Blood factions, like in the 2016 song Pressure with Rich the Kid, where he then raps that he's with Slime, this perhaps being a reference to the Riverdale-based Rich Slime Gang, or Young Thug's YSL, aka Young Slime Life, going from Cleveland Avenue in Zone 3. Yet Carti would also make sure to shout out his Crip homies, showing that once again he was extremely well connected with different gangs and hoods all over America. There was even a short period of time when Carti was seemingly heavily affiliated with the late Chicago rapper Fredo Santana's Front Street 061 set whilst hanging out with him in LA. However, in one of his most well-known songs, the 2017 Lil Uzi Vert collab Woke Up Like This from his self-titled mixtape, Carti makes clear that while he's affiliated with certain gangs like the Compton Pyrus, he's denied being a gangbanger himself. But after Carti would move to New York to chase his rap dream, eventually signing with the ASAP crew, he would also make some gang-related connections there too, like meeting the rapper Jim Jones from the legendary rap collective The Diplomats or Dipset. He's also the rapper to start using the moniker Vamp Life or Vampire Life, with Carti then commonly using the vamp term throughout his whole Lotta Red era, as well as more recently starting his own crew or movement called YVL or Young Vamp Life. However, around the same time when Carti was building his rap career in New York with the ASAP mob, he would also spend time in Atlanta recording music, his time there eventually leading him to meet a rapper called Lil One, through Lil One's girlfriend, a rapper known as Red Cold Hearted.
But we ended up meeting Playboi Carti through my girl, so he was already like from 2016, like we've been rocking with each other since like 2015, me and her, so he been around us in like 2016.
But Lil One wasn't just any random rapper, as his dad, or at least stepdad according to some Redditors, is none other than the Duct Tape Entertainment CEO, Big Bank, which is why Carti can be seen in some pictures wearing DTE merch and hanging with members of DTE, including Big Bank himself. Being part of the young DTE generation, Lil One is also affiliated with the 800 set and Homixide Gang, as he makes clear in his underrated 2019 banger titled 800, as well as another song called Homixide, dropped in 2021 with none other than Carti himself. Other 800 Homixide Gang members that Carti would become close with during this period are people like Big Sosa, who Carti would spend perhaps the most time with, the two doing everything together, from playing basketball and shooting dice to attending baseball games and hanging out in the hood. There's also the rapper Problem Child 5, who some Redditors claim to have been the one who actually stamped Carti into the gang, although this would have perhaps been more likely done by Lil One and Big Bank. Carti would also hang out with members like another rapper called R5 and a young'un called Lil Demon, who Carti would shout out in his 2020 song Stop Breathing. These lyrics also mentioning the rapper Bino, who is one half of a rapper duo together with another Homixide member called Michi, who Carti would eventually sign to his Opium record label under the group name Homixide Gang, in the process turning these hard-nosed gangsters into nocturnal vamp lifers surviving on a diet of lean, blood, and the latest Rick Owens fits, just like the King Vamp himself. Many have considered the relationship between Carti and the Homixide Gang, or 800, to be more like a symbiotic business relationship, where Carti benefits from these gangs bringing him street credibility that he formerly lacked.
DMG wasn't even out when they made them VHS. There's some different kind of bills out then. I got some of them in the house too.
Meanwhile, the Homixide gang and 800 obviously benefit greatly from all the attention Carti can bring to their numerous rappers. Not to mention guys like Michi and Bino getting officially signed to Carti's Opium label and no doubt getting a bag for themselves. However, others seem to think that Carti is basically getting friendly extorted by these gangs who use him for clout while supposedly giving him protection, but arguably not having any real love for him as a person. But whatever the truth is, becoming part of a notorious gang in Atlanta does not come without its own hardships, and in recent years, Carti has certainly become familiar with the dark side of the streets. As mentioned, Homixide 800 used to be close with the Henxhmen gang, and there's numerous photos and videos showing their members together, with Henxhmen members like Ola Runt making appearances in the music videos for rappers like Lil One. While in the August 2019 music video for Ola Runt's early hit song Feel Like Goo Wop, he can be seen together with Big Bank and Lil One, while actually supporting an 800 shirt himself. Ola was seemingly cool with Carti himself around this time too, shouting him out on his social media. During a November 2019 Hood Rich radio interview, Big Bank would even shout out Ola as the #1 up-and-coming rapper to look out for in Atlanta.
Some of the rappers maybe outside of your crew in Atlanta that you would want the world to pay attention to that you think might be next to represent the city?
Most definitely Ola Runt. Okay. He got my neighborhood.
Going hard, yep.
Ola, he going nuts right now.
However, soon after, things between Ola and Big Bank would deteriorate quickly, with rumors later circulating that this possibly had something to do with Ola refusing to sign with Bank's DTE label, as during early 2020, it looked like Ola was in fact trying to sign to Gucci Mane's 1017 Records, receiving an iced out chain from Mr. Zone 6 himself.
I was just thinking,
man. I gotta put it on.
Whatever the real reason, Ola would then attack Big Bank on social media, even posting the clip of Bank shouting him out on the radio, while accusing him of being two-faced and actually hating and lying on him behind the scenes. Big Bank would reply in the comments saying that they never tried to sign Ola, and that they instead tried to help him to get signed by numerous people without expecting anything in return, before dissing both Ola and his father. Big Bank was clearly in his feelings, posting also a long message on his own social media, once again dissing both Ola and his dad. Meanwhile, Ola would do far more than just type on social media, dropping a scathing diss track in April 2020 titled Mobfather, Big Bank's nickname in Atlanta being the Godfather. But he would diss both Big Bank personally, as well as sets like the Homixide gang, claiming that Bank got ran out of Zone 6 and had to move to 800's hood in Zone 3, and the Homixide gang was scared of the henchmen behind the scenes. Bank and Lil One would react to the song seeming unbothered, while clowning Ola back.
Look at it, man. You don't live kids in the video. You ain't telling us.
Meanwhile, Homixide rapper Problem Child 5 would come out with a response diss towards Ola titled PP's Son, PP referring to Ola's father. Ola would keep dissing on social media, going live around the same time of Problem Child's song release and airing out both Bank and Problem Child 5, even taking shots at Carti, calling him a fashion blood who only pretends to gangbang to look cool without even knowing the inner codes of money murder.
Hey, and Problem Child, your daddy name Big O. Big O is a preacher. Y'all heard Big O is a preacher, man. Big O is a preacher and he's a chef. He cook food, no dope. Y'all heard me? My father cooked dope. Y'all heard me? Your father cooked food. What you talking about? And then listen, Big Bank stuff your mama when she was like 14. And he was like in his 20s. So like you his stepchild. Do that no more, they just fashion blood. It be fashion banging, man. A lot of fashion blood, they want to dye their hair. They want to, you know what I'm saying? They just want to dye their hair or do shit like that, man. Be blood just to dye their hair red, man. They don't know shit about the set. Shit about the royal flush. Shit about the first 5 on the east. Shit about none of that.
But Problem Child would clap back, going live and giving a detailed story of Ola and other henchmen running during a shootout.
Henxhmen! Oh my mama, I ain't never seen so many henchmen running at the funeral. I seen running. I seen little Left Eye. I swear to God, I seen Left Eye watching Ola get shot at, bro. I swear to God. Ola done went to the right. Left Eye went to the left. I said, oh hell no. Well, I'm following my brother. Hey. I'm following my dog. Hey. Huh? That's my left eye to my he ain't see that. He was looking to the right.
But while the beef was getting heated, Ola had some completely other problems to deal with, as he would get arrested at the famous Lenox Mall in Atlanta, with somebody filming the arrest while Ola would speak to the camera, calling Big Bank a snitch.
Man, Big Bank, you the police too, man. Make sure you pull that, man. Tell you folks Big Bank a rat, man. All these niggas telling on me, man. All y'all rats, man. My name like now, man. All y'all rats.
And Ola's problems with law enforcement wouldn't end there, because already the following month, in June, he would be in trouble once again, this time crashing out in style, going live on Instagram while in the middle of a high-speed chase with the police in Monroe County. The Monroe County sheriff would later give an update, saying that they had caught Ola hiding in the woods after the chase, whilst also posting a picture of him in handcuffs. Unfortunately, things were about to get even worse for the Homixide gang, because later that month on the 28th of June, whilst Homixide and 800 members were hanging out at their usual location in the 800 block, something would go very wrong, and Carti's perhaps closest friend from the gang, Big Sosa, would end up being shot in the head around 10 PM that night. He would later pass away in the hospital, and Sosa's death would be a major shock for his set, with the rapper R5 even putting out a project titled Everything for Sosa. And Sosa's death would of course affect Carti, who would change his Twitter name to RIP Sosa, and would later give a heartfelt tribute to him during his 2021 Lollapalooza set, whilst also telling the audience that he was living a double life, and that when he wasn't rocking out shows as a rap superstar, he was, quote, in the streets for real.
You know, I lost my brother recently. His name was Sosa, and I really loved him so much, and y'all just, you know what I'm saying, we could talk about this another day. I just gotta understand, like, I mean, you know what I'm saying, I got two different lives, and when I'm not being King Vamp and not this other, I'm in the streets for real, so let's do it.
This speech leading to the performance of the song Die for Guy, where Carti raps how he's ready to die for his friends. Later in an interview with the Marvin magazine, Carti would explain how the later song Stop Breathing is actually another side of him that he doesn't even want his fans to see, seemingly implying that the song's aggressive message, where Carti screamed how all he's been able to think about after the death of Sosa is homicide, is too raw a look into his mind, which was seemingly being haunted by thoughts of violence and revenge. Lil Wan would reveal during his October 2024 interview with Dirty Glove Bastard Media how the song Homixide by him and Carti was another tribute for Sosa.
It's like, all this going on, Sosa passed, he called me like, bro, we gotta do one for Sosa, you know what I'm saying, like, we got to.
Problem Child, who would claim to have been at the scene shortly before the incident that claimed Sosa's life, would also write a heartfelt message to him, saying how he was blaming himself for what happened for leaving Sosa on the scene without him. It's still not clear what exactly happened that led up to Sosa's death in his home turf, but there have been some wild rumours, some of them actually blaming Problem Child for allegedly backdooring Sosa and getting him killed. These rumours would get further amped up when Problem Child would first get booked in September 2020 for numerous very serious charges, before getting released in June 2021 and then getting booked again in September, this time having an insane rap sheet that listed 4 felony murders, with one of these murder charges being the murder of Sosa according to some Reddit sleuths. However, others have pointed out that the offence date for all of his crimes is listed as the 1st of October 2019, which would obviously rule out Sosa being one of the victims, although it seems equally unlikely that he in fact committed 4 murders during one day. But whatever happened, the Henchmen were rejoicing Sosa's death like they had been the ones sliding, and they would go on a dissing rampage, with rappers like 24 Left Eye and Ola Runt leading the charge and dropping numerous lyrics referencing the murder of Sosa and claiming to be smoking him. But unfortunately for Ola Runt, he wouldn't be rejoicing for too long, because in late 2020, he was snatched up by the FBI as part of their infamous Operation Phoenix, which targeted some of the worst violent offenders in the city, the same operation famously leading to the arrest of none other than Lil Woody, the infamous informant from the YSL Rico trial. As a result of this arrest, Ola would be out the streets for some time, but meanwhile, Carti was preparing to drop his second studio album, Whole Lotta Red, which he had been teasing and promising at this point for literally years. But this album would turn out to be nothing like Carti's previous work that he had become known for, like the self-titled mixtape and the debut album Die Lit, where he would mostly rap about girls, designer clothes and drugs on top of chill and floaty beats by producers like Pierre Bourne. This album would for the first time reveal to the world the real Carti, who was seemingly deeper in Atlanta gang politics than anyone could have possibly imagined. After Carti's 2018 album Die Lit went down as one of the most glazed trap albums in rap history, fans got on their knees and pleaded for Carti to drop again. After Carti dropped 2 projects back to back in 2017 and 2018, many people thought he would be coming back in 2019, but they forgot this is a man who loves to tease albums and never drop them. Despite making 2 classics, Carti would indulge in a legendary game of cat and mouse with his fans, edging them on for an excruciating 859 days, characterized by over 2 years of cryptic tweets, leaked snippets, and mostly silence from Carti. This would turn posts on Carti's subreddit from fan posts into group therapy sessions. The hype all began in July 2018, just 2 months after Die Lit dropped, when Carti teased a snippet called Cancun, and in it, he rubbed cash on his bare stomach whilst rapping My Stummy Hurt, which would become an instant meme. By August, Carti finally gave his next project a name, Whole Lotta Red, this title being a nod to his blood ties and love of crimson-drenched lean. But Carti being Carti, dangled the album like a carrot, teasing unreleased tracks at shows and then vanishing again. Rumors would swirl, and based on those close to him, the album was due in 2019. The next month in April, a legendary February song called Pissy Pamper aka Kid Cudi, a collab with Young Nudie, would leak online. This one was a banger, mainly due to the hypnotic beat with an infectious sample and Carti's mesmerizing baby voice that he used on the track. Fans were desperate for this song, and an unofficial upload posted by a random person on Spotify would actually shoot to #1 on the viral charts. Ultimately though, the success of the leak may have destroyed chances of the song releasing officially, leading many to believe that Carti was forced to make numerous changes to his Whole Lotta Red album due to his intended songs circulating early. By late June, chaos erupted when 5 unreleased Playboi Carti tracks would mysteriously surface on his official Apple Music account, one being the already released Green and Purple with Travis Scott, and another a collab with Chicago's G Herbo. Carti rushed to Instagram claiming that he'd been hacked, the caption saying, "I hate leaks, leave me alone." By this time, the leaks must have been getting under Carti's skin, with him even stopping the music at one performance and asking the crowd how they even knew one of his unreleased songs. Apparently Carti thought he was playing unknown tracks, but was genuinely pissed off to find out on stage that the fans had already gotten hold of this song. These leaks weren't just early chances to hear songs, they were spoilers for this album that Carti was still working so hard on. Desperate to regain control, Carti took to the stage in Milwaukee that July to announce a featureless album release.
I'm trying to drop my 60 days. I ain't gonna lie. I feel like we worked too hard for this moment. So I'm gonna do no features, just all me.
Fans marked calendars for a release date in the next 60 days, however by September, the leaks had multiplied and patience evaporated, with fans pleading for Carti drop before this whole album leaks. In October, Carti reignited hope with cryptic Instagram posts, fit pics of him in red pants, and a caption reading, "Him, heart, red incoming." A caption that some fans would interpret as Carti announcing the drop of his album in less than 3 days, followed by less than 48 hours locked in. But instead of the album, fans just got a photo of Carti in purple devil horns captioned, "I just made 10 vibes." The 48 hours apparently referring to a marathon recording session, not a release, and the reaction was brutal. Fans dubbed the album Whole Lotta Cap and took to Twitter to vent their disappointment. And as October came and went, Carti didn't drop music, letting fans down once again. Moving into 2020, Carti resurfaced in headlines for darker reasons after he was arrested on drug and gun charges in Clayton County, Georgia, an incident that Blackie Speaks reported on, explaining that Carti was apparently found with 12 bags of smoke, 3 guns, Xanax, codeine, and oxycodone.
Playboi Carti was riding around in his Lambo and then got pulled over by the cops for having an expired tag. The cops decided to search the car and found a couple things. Now, they found 3 guns, 12 bags of marijuana, Xanax, codeine, and oxy pills.
With the photos released by the news showcasing the guns and drugs that they were driving around with in a Lambo sporting an expired license plate. Carti and close friend and associate Jalen Tucker were arrested and taken to Clayton County Jail. Carti walked free with minor charges, while Tucker, also later known as Opium Baby, shouldered felony counts, with the general understanding online being that Jalen Tucker actually took these charges on Carti's behalf. He would spend some time in jail taking a plea deal and later posting an IG story of an iced out Rolex and boasting to have just whooped the DEA in court and gotten out of jail. And seemingly as a reward for his loyalty, he's now currently listed as the co-founder and a creative at Carti's Opium Records. Anyway, a few weeks after Carti's arrest and release, a social media post shifted attention from his arrest. It was an image of Carti in a dark room, while the parental advisory sticker confused many into thinking that this was indeed an album cover. But instead, Carti broke his almost 2-year official solo release silence with a new song called Meh. Considered an evolution to his high-pitched baby voice flow, with Complex calling the song barely understandable from a lyrical perspective. However, Meh performed well and debuted at number 35 on the charts. But the real news for fans was Carti cryptically tweeting Monday, then ghosting. Monday passed and left some fans confused and frustrated, asking on Reddit what the hell was the point of that Monday tweet. The tweet became another meme amongst fans who announced its anniversary every year. The next month, Carti would feature on Drake's Dark Lane demo tapes on the track Pain 1993, this first official collaboration between Playboi Carti and Drake, giving Carti his first top 10 hit, with Pain 1993 peaking at number 7 on the charts. But true to form, after this monumental career debut, Carti vanished once again. By November, Carti was being featured on GQ's Men of the Year, teasing fans once again, but dodging questions about the album's release day, confirming that music is coming, but regarding the album's release, simply saying we'll see. On the same day, he sent fans into a frenzy with an Instagram post with the simple caption, "Album turned in." Then in December, DJ Academics would leak the final release date, saying that he had to sell his soul to the Illuminati to get this information, but Playboi Carti would be dropping on Christmas.
But I had to damn near sell my soul for this information. The Illuminati owns a part of me because I got this info. Facts. They said, "Ack, we could we could give it to somebody else. What are you gonna do to get it?" I said, "Take a toe, take an arm, take a pinky." Anyway, if you were wondering, Playboi Carti Whole Lotta Red is not dropping tonight. Playboi Carti Whole Lotta Red, from what I've been told, and I know this is 100% accurate. Not 99.9, 100%. Playboi Carti, Whole Lotta Red will be dropping on Christmas Day.
And to his credit, Academics was dead right. 859 days after Die Lit released, on December the 25th, 2020, fans could finally breathe as Whole Lotta Red actually dropped, debuting at #1 on the US Billboard 200 with a whopping 100,000 units sold in its first week. This became Carti's first US #1 album debut, along with a slew of other individual songs that hit the charts too, and the album received mostly positive reviews. I, however, at the time, not truly understanding the genius behind Carti's punk trap movement, listened to the album once and decided to make a video absolutely trashing it.
Ross, what are you doing? I'm just checking out that new Playboi Carti album. It's trash.
A video which ironically wound up being critically panned and becoming the most disliked video of my career, a mark of great shame. But people, I eventually saw sense and took that video down and actually gave Whole Lotta Red another chance. I listened to it several times during a very long trip, and at that point I finally got it. I could understand the sonic genius behind Carti's music, the punk rock trap mashup that created a truly unique experience. At the time, I was looking for lyricism, a real story, and good songwriting. I was looking in the wrong place, because Carti's music doesn't provide any of those things. It's all about the vibes, the aura, the repeatability, and the energy that these songs give you when you throw them on. It took me a few years to wake up to Carti's genius, but at the time, most other people with a little sense could see the greatness for what it was. Whole Lotta Red went on to be included in many year-end lists, but interestingly, the project also included more than anthems to mosh to. In fact, anyone listening and following the politics of the Atlanta streets could see that this was Carti's most lyrically deep album yet. At the time, many of these lyrics completely went over my head because I didn't know the extent of Carti's street ties, and I'd assumed his fashionable artistic persona didn't hit any form of street credentials. But how wrong I was. Because from the jump, Carti draws lines in the cement. Rockstar Made opens up with a venomous warning to rivals shouting out Homixide Gang and their hood shouting out Backstreet. On track 3, Stop Breathing, the most infamous song of the album, the entire song is an ode to Carti's gang members, as well as a brutal diss track aimed at then incarcerated ATL rapper Ola Runt and his Henxhmen gang. Carti grieves his fallen friend and Homixide member Big Sosa, vowing revenge, and he then name drops jailed allies like Lil Tip, Migo Bliff, and members of the Homixide gang, saying that he was outside sliding on the Henxhmen. He would also shout out his blood affiliations and his affiliation with the Fives, before dropping a shocking lyric that he had apparently had Ola Runt stabbed in prison, allegedly by Migo Bliff. On track 4, called Bino, Carti doubles down. The song named after his alleged triggerman, the track is a red flag rallying cry, letting his ops know that they're upping the score. He would also shout out Homixide member Bino, saying that Bino is known for going crazy. Even track 15, Punk Monk, would reference the times that Carti was riding around with a gun looking to rob people with Key and Man Man Savage, whilst hinting at betrayal from his own shooter Lil TJ. On the track On That Time, no metaphors, no wordplay, Carti straight up swears on his son's life that he will leave his rivals in the ground. So to the suburban kids rocking out to Whole Lotta Red, it was rage music, but if you were from the streets of Atlanta, it was a coded map of bodies, betrayal, and block politics. Carti was now doing to drill music what he had done to trap music, making the first punk rock inspired gangster rap album that brought rage to the drill era. This was music that you could mosh to or slide to, and it had never been done before. And now this will become yet a new lane of innovation that Carti could use to drive his sound forward and continue evolving as an artist. But if fans wanted to hear more of it soon, they would be sorely disappointed, because if you thought the Whole Lotta Red rollout was a tease, just wait till you get a load of music. Since Playboi Carti's groundbreaking album Whole Lotta Red released in 2020, rabid fans have been begging for him to drop more music. But he would spend the better part of 5 years teasing and edging his rabid fans, all while attempting to shun the spotlight. He would tease a follow-up album as early as March 2021, claiming in an IG post, "We not done." That post was followed by radio silence for about 2 months until Carti popped out once again, making a rare guest appearance, appearing on the highly anticipated lead single on Trippie Redd's 5th studio album, Trip at Night, with their song Miss the Rage. The music video was released 3 weeks later, and fans were stunned that Trippie was able to get Carti out his house for once. A couple months later, Carti would reveal that the next album he was dropping would be titled Narcissist, and suggested that it would be coming as soon as September the 13th, 2021. It did not drop. The day that Carti announced Narcissist would actually end up being a dark day for him, as his friend, fellow Homixide affiliate, the rapper R5, would pass away. R5's cause of death wouldn't immediately be released, but Problem Child would soon post an incredibly emotional message that R5 had apparently sent him before his passing, telling how he had been sold fake pills and his mental health appeared to be in a very dark place, telling how he couldn't stop crying and seeing death, but in the end, promising that he was going to check into a rehab facility. Unfortunately, it would appear that R5 would instead choose another way. Problem Child appeared truly heartbroken, posting how he felt that this was God's payback for all the dirt that he had done in the streets. Carti would pay respects to R5 on social media too. Meanwhile, Henxhmen were once again celebrating and dissing their dead rival.
So crazy, I was dropping like flies. What
going on?
But meanwhile, Carti would keep himself busy on the music side, and about a week after R5's death, he would make 2 appearances on Kanye West's album Donda, Off the Grid, that paired Carti up with Fabio Foreign, as well as the track Junior, which also featured a part 2, considered the remix of the track, extending Carti's verse and adding Ty Dolla $ign. Ye would later say that Carti is his favourite artist, and these rare appearances allowed him to keep his name at the top of the rap game while still maintaining his aura. After this, Carti went quiet for several months, only popping out in April 2022 to give a rare interview to XXL magazine where he revealed the new album would actually be called Music, not Narcissist. But that announcement was once again followed by pretty much radio silence until the end of the year. That is until December the 25th, 2022, on the 2nd anniversary of the release of Whole Lotta Red, Carti would tease his new album again, posting a pretty thoughtless cover art to IG, and tweeting saying that he loved his supporters and that it was time to tease these fans once again, and ultimately delivering nothing. A couple months later, the edging continued, when Atlanta DJ Swamp Izzo would claim in an interview that Carti is done recording a full-length LP, as well as teasing a collaborative album with NBA YoungBoy.
Swamp Izzo, NBA YoungBoy's next.
It's gonna be hard.
Let me give you a world premiere right now.
We're gonna have to drop this. We're gonna have to put this out.
Swamp Izzo, Playboi Carti album is done.
Oh!
This interestingly was just a month after NBA YoungBoy released his album I Rest My Case, with a clear inspiration from Carti and his rage music movement. They were rumoured to have created an album together called 004K Trey, inspired by both their crews, with speculation fueled by the revelation that Carti had gifted YoungBoy a chain. This tape never materialised, however. But Carti was still cooking up features behind the scenes, and he was about to make another iconic song. The July 28th, 2023 track Fiend brought Travis Scott and Playboi Carti back together again. Dropping as part of Scott's 4th full-length studio album Utopia, the track became a mosh pit anthem, with Travis starting a trend of performing this same track over and over again at concerts, looping the track on stage 10, 12, and reportedly even once 24 times in a row. Fiend was a certified hit and peaked at number 5 on Billboard. Carti was really doing something that had never been done before. He was making himself scarce from the scene, constantly avoiding the limelight, but strategically using these collaboration moments to maintain his spot at the top of the rap game. But fans wanted Carti, and they wanted his solo album desperately. In November 2023, in an interview with Numero Berlin, Carti opened up on the significance of the music album, calling it the most important moment of his career and elaborating on his bizarre creative process, revealing that he'd actually spent 3 months locked in a Parisian cave recording, as well as revealing that when he records back in Atlanta, the tensions are extremely high, presumably from the gang war, suggesting this gives his music recorded there a different kind of bite, and also possibly inferring that perhaps it would be best for his safety if he stayed out of Atlanta. At the end of 2023, Carti posted an IG post with an artwork saying I Am Music that looked like it could be the cover art or typeface of the much anticipated album, with Pharrell Williams tweeting it with the caption, "Prepare," prompting Carti to share that, sparking speculation that Pharrell was indeed working on the project too. This was followed by DJ Academics announcing on stream that the project was due in January 2024 and that it would be the greatest thing you'd ever heard. Just a day later, on December the 8th, 2023, Carti would finally bless fans with his first solo release in over 3 years, the song Different Day. A surprise release from the Opium Instagram account, it came along with a music video showing Carti vibing to the song next to a Lambo Urus, but this wasn't officially released on his channels or streaming platforms, committing to the underground approach that had kept his music buzzing amongst core fans, with Carti basically doing everything he could to intentionally keep his music and persona out of the mainstream conversation. A few days later, Carti would surprise fans once again with a Kanye West produced track called 2024, as well as a music video that was bound to blow up, depicting Carti smoking cigarettes at the gas station. Over the following weeks, the usually reserved Carti would flood the internet with music. His next song, Hood by Air, featuring Carti in a warehouse surrounded by goons and his label mates, and the title for Hood by Air was stylized by incorporating 2 zeros rather than the letter O as a reference to his Opium label, something he'd continue to do on subsequent releases. The following month, Backrooms dropped, being Carti's 4th pre-release single to his upcoming album and the 4th official collaboration between Carti and Travis Scott, and it came with another lo-fi music video that showed Carti roaming around what I assume is the Opium label offices on a normal working day. That track would be followed by a legendary one, Evil Jordan, the title being a reference to his birth name and the evil demonic persona that he's cultivated over the years. Evil Jordan came along with another lo-fi that had a funny moment where he flexes a G-Wagon spare wheel cover in his kitchen. Carti was finally blessing his fans with the music they'd been begging for, and for a moment it looked like he would finally be opening up and doing some press, as rap fans would be sent into a frenzy when it was announced that in February, Carti would be appearing on Aiden Ross's Kick livestream. Aiden reportedly had agreed to pay Carti $2 million to appear on the stream, with Carti turning up in what looked like a gimp mask and saying very little before leaving after just over 5 minutes. Aiden would seemingly pay Carti part of his fee in cash during the stream, and after receiving the bag, he didn't hang around for long. While he was there, Carti would tease his music album, saying that it was coming in 2024 before leaving abruptly. And after his abrupt exit, a very annoyed Aiden Ross would actually call to cancel the private jet that was booked for Carti to say that he was taking it for himself. Carti's antics were arguably the perfect publicity stunt to match his mysterious and abrasive persona, but ultimately, music still came first, and he wasn't taking his eyes off the high-profile feature game that he'd already been dominating. Later in February, he would have more back-to-back bangers with Ye as part of him and Ty Dolla $ign's Vulture's project, appearing on the track F-Some, which went number 23 on the charts, but that was just an hors d'oeuvre for the main event. The hit track Carnival, which also featured Rich the Kid and came with a visualizer that was likely the result of asking ChatGPT what a rap video would look like if the Germans won World War II. The track would be a hit, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and giving Carti his first and only chart-topping track of his career. This was the perfect momentum for Carti's solo music, and a month later he would drop another solo track. Carti's 6th teaser single from his upcoming studio album, I Am Music, was titled Ketamine. The simplistic music video for the track was actually released through the Opium Instagram, and the video included gritty and raw scenes of ambiguous figures in a trap house preparing guns and knives for war, along with scenes of Carti rapping aggressively in a room to a guitarist and spazzing out on a dirty mattress. But Carti wasn't done slaying features still, and the same month he would appear on one of the biggest albums of 2024, the track Type Stuff, along with Travis Scott from Metro and Future's We Don't Trust You album. The song would peak at number 2 on the Billboard charts, and now with a number 1 and a number 2 hit within just a matter of months, this would be the perfect time for Carti to keep releasing solo music. But in classic Carti style, he continued toying with the fans and going quiet for a few months again, then popping back out on June the 17th with a 10-second snippet of solo music on his Instagram, which was frankly awful. But after that, Carti seemed to crawl back into his cave for a couple more months, eventually re-emerging on September the 13th, 2024 with the track All Red, his first solo release on actual streaming platforms since his second studio album Whole Lotta Red. Keep in mind, all the solo tracks that he had released during this period had been on IG or YouTube without true commercial releases on all platforms. The cover had a reference to Carti's gang ties saying I stay with the fives, and the lyrics would see Carti seemingly making more subtle references to gang violence and the war in his city, referencing being dressed in all red, staying with his fives, and people getting shot and killed, and saying that he was wearing a balaclava and shooting people before he got rich, as well as talking about getting the drop on his ops and sending shooters there in stolen cars immediately. All Red came with an official visualizer that further teased the I Am Music album, showing the logo that he had shared earlier frequently. All Red ended up hitting number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100, actually becoming his highest charting solo song of his career, and he would take this opportunity to tease the album's release date again, confirming on Instagram that the album was coming and available for pre-order, as well as dropping merch, as well as a digital album pre-order that claimed that the album would be available in 2025. Fans were eagerly anticipating the album, and despite all the delays and letdowns, it looked like it was truly coming. 2 months later, on November the 21st, 2024, Playboi Carti releases a new track with the caption "Play This" through his Finsta account, which featured a floaty auto-tune vibe, the complete opposite of All Red. This song didn't get an official release, however, but soon fans would be delighted with a massive cache of new music, when the following month, Rolling Carti performs at Rolling Loud's 10th anniversary festival, previewing 5 new songs expected to be on his upcoming album, I Am Music. This included completely new songs, Drugs Got Me Numb, Cocaine Knows, Walk, and Lie. These new tracks were great news for Carti fans, but perhaps slightly disappointing to those who believed that he would be unveiling and performing the full new album. But a couple months later in February, fans were thrown a lifeline as Spotify-funded billboards began popping up all over America, announcing that music is coming. And shout out to Spotify, who gave me a billboard in London that very same weekend. Go enjoy my videos on Spotify if you aren't there already. These billboards seem to be the strongest signal yet that Carti's album was real and genuinely close to release. On the 9th of March 2025, Carti revealed that the album was done in an IG story, and on Carti's subreddit, his most dedicated fans would theorize about the possibility of the album releasing or just being another huge disappointment. Speculation on a March 14th release date swirled, with some fans sharing confirmations of their merch being shipped as a possible signal that the drop was truly loading. On March the 12th, Carti cleared all of his posts off his Instagram page, and the Opium page made a couple of posts, one showing a new Carti billboard in New York and another showing Carti cuddled up with a dog. The official Spotify account would reply seemingly confirming that something legit was happening, and the Opium account replied to Kai Cenat asking if the album is dropping Friday, with fans believing that these will be lyrics from the project. Spotify's official Instagram page would make a reassuring post telling fans to have faith, and Carti would confirm that the project was indeed coming that Friday. And despite some very small delays, music would indeed release as planned, completely taking over the rap game and setting records for streaming numbers and storming to the top of the Billboard charts. Carti was also booked to headline Rolling Loud California on Sunday the 16th of March, just days after the album release, and he would deliver an electrifying set that cemented him in history as one of rap's most standout performers. Arguably, Carti has built one of the most legendary, if unusual, legacies in hip-hop music history. The enigmatic and fashionable persona, combined with the punk rock meets trap rage sound that he pioneered and layered with the gangster rap and drill elements influenced by his affiliations in the Atlanta Blood Gangs, makes Carti one of the most unique and groundbreaking music the genre has ever seen. I was wrong about Carti once upon a time, but I really have to tip my hat and pay my respects to him as one of the greats of the rap game who truly drove things forward. I enjoyed Carti's album, I hope you enjoyed that video, and until next time, peace out.